All right, coming to you from a pre-recorded session. This is a new edition of the FwooshCast, First Friday with Super7's own Brian Flynn. And since people are going to be seeing this next week, I mean, maybe we'll just be like ghosts of Christmas past now because it's December, so 'tis the season.
It's December 1st, yes, and I will be the ghost of Christmas past. Are you going to be present or future?
Yeah, I was going to say you have to come into the past a little bit to have these conversations since you're like living probably in 2025 by now. Is that about right?
I am living well into 25.
Yeah.
I'm trying to wrap 25 actually, but
well,
it's always a goal and never succeeded.
Well, that's at work, kind of. But are you like are you moved into the holiday spirit at this point?
I put away the Halloween stuff.
Yeah.
So yes, but I have not put up the holiday stuff yet. But the Halloween stuff is put away, so I've officially transitioned into that version of it. I'll get the rest of this done. Maybe this week. I don't know. I'm trying to get the kids to help, and that's always like, well, we got to do this and that. It's like, no, we got to do this together.
See, I think you and I are kind of at opposite ends of the spectrum of that right now because you're begging the kids to help, and we get a little too much help from our kids right now. So yeah, as soon as Halloween is over, it's like we've got to fight them back for 2 or 3 weeks to keep the Christmas stuff, still away, and then when they help, it takes about 5 times longer than it should, but it's cool. We're making memories over here.
That's what you're doing. You're making memories. You've got the classics on the radio.
Yeah.
I said that, and you realize, and just there, I dated myself. Like, there's people watching this going, "Who are the classics that you think are the classics, and who the hell uses a radio?" It's like, no, you're streaming a playlist from someplace that probably is like, oh, Mariah Carey's a classic, like classic Christmas music.
Well, actually, not to be not to put a dampener on it, but I did listen to my first Christmas song, which is always annually "Fairy Tale of New York," and it was sad because lost Shane McGowan this week. So I would say we've got to pour one out for Shane, but we'd probably have to pour a few out for Shane. But
I think Shane poured them all into himself.
Yeah, he's like top 3 all time for me. So that was a tough one, but he left behind a hell of a lot, so that's pretty good.
He did. I saw a funny meme that was like he had died at 65 or 112 in Irish poet years.
Yeah. So we could only all hope to live as much as he did. So yeah. But yeah. So holidays are getting started, but
yes, nobody
about,
wants to hear us talk about holidays. Nobody wants to hear us talking about Shane.
Well, yeah, and we already said that you have to come back to the past a little bit to have these conversations, and I'm wanting to go back to the past to the last session that we had because the last time we talked a lot about Godzilla.
We did talk a lot about Godzilla.
But today is the day. Today is the day of the new Godzilla.
Yeah, officially. Godzilla Minus One comes out today, even though everybody could see it starting Wednesday.
Yeah. So have you seen it, and what are your thoughts?
I have not been able to see it yet. Most of my staff has been able to see it because I am taking the family, because my kids are in high school now. Yeah. We're all going to Godzilla together. I have to do it on Saturday because Friday night we have soccer practice and goalie training. So that goes to 8, and then it's like you can't get into like a night. So it ends up. So Saturday, -1, Godzilla is going to destroy everything, and it's going to be awesome. I've heard nothing but wonderful reviews of this movie.
I have too. I've heard if you are definitely a classic Godzilla fan, this is very I don't know. It does the legacy well. So I'm excited to see it as well. I have not seen it yet either because I'm probably going to have to go see it by myself because mine aren't that old yet. So
that's all right. That's why yours want to help with Christmas and mine are like, I have shit to do.
Yeah, like go see Godzilla. But of course, you guys.
There it is.
You guys are celebrating with a brand new pre-order for the Godzilla -1 Ultimates figure, and I've got to say, as far as, sculpting and stuff goes, this might be one of the most, I don't know, detailed from a sculpt perspective. And it looks like anywhere you're going to touch this guy is going to hurt. And that's a compliment.
Yeah, no, it was a really cool thing to be able to sit there and go, okay, can we bring out the newest Godzilla when the movie comes out?
Mm-hmm.
So much of what we do across everything is retro, as everyone knows. It's like we're never on and ahead of schedule with something new that's coming about the new movies or new this or new that usually. And so being able to do -1 coming out with the movie was pretty epic. And yeah, it's a ridiculous design too. It's a really great Godzilla design. Obviously, it looks unique and it's brand new, but at the same time, it has a lot of the hallmarks of like the classic 50s Godzilla, but also the classic 90s Godzilla that so many people really, when you say Godzilla these days, they think of that, 90s burning Godzilla era Godzilla. That's their iconic Godzilla. And the spikes on the back are just bananas.
Yeah.
They're all have to be individually tooled so you can plug them all in. But it's just a really cool design. It's a really cool update to the way they did the feet. It's a little bit more bird-like and everything.
Mm.
The giant thighs on him, Godzilla's been doing squats.
I was going to say it's the time of thick thighs, so they brought him in well. Yeah, brought it in well.
But it has that wonderful. It's basically just a triangle. I mean, if you think about it, and it's just like it feels so much more imposing and mean because of all that weight at the bottom coming up to the top, where some of the more slender Godzillas just don't feel near as mean, if that makes as much sense, or imposing. But it's a really cool design. It's a really cool figure. I'm excited. Like I said, I wish I could tell you that I've seen the movie, but as much as they gave us all this stuff to work from, we were under heavy embargo, so I have not yet gotten to see it.
All right. Well, like you said, being able to drop this on the official, release date is pretty cool. And it's like you said, it's definitely got its influences, I think, from the past. But to me, it's very much a modern Godzilla. So it's fun to see a little bit of a different take on that when we're gonna have this one like standing next to like the Shogun one, and we're gonna you've been doing that in reaction, but we're gonna start to really see a cross section of from some of the real classic stuff to right now. So that's cool. Like you said, getting the opportunity to do that. So
yeah, no, I'm super pumped on this Godzilla, and it feels really cool, really great.
Yeah, well, there's
exciting new toys are coming soon.
Yeah, there's our reminder, of course. Yes. Well, I'm glad you get to see the movie this weekend. So by the time people watch this, you'll have already seen it. So no spoilers here as far as that goes.
No spoilers, unfortunately. I do not have the spoilers for you.
Well, for you with a Godzilla movie, seeing it in the theater, is that different for you than like other movies because it's Godzilla, or is Godzilla the type that's like you absolutely have to see it on the screen and not on the tiny screen type of thing?
I don't know that I have to. I'd like to, It's always fun to see it big because you can just see so much more than you can small, but I'm not going to be like, well, if I didn't see it in the theater, it's like, no, like there's definitely movies that are meant for that experience.
Yeah.
Like I think about the new Dune movie. So much in that, and the scale is so big that, it's great on your TV, but in the theater, it's bonkers.
Yeah.
But no, I don't. I'm not that guy.
Well, I'm glad that you get to see it in the movie.
Exactly. I'm glad I get to see it. How about that?
Yeah. Okay. Well, Godzilla Minus One, that is obviously very exciting. And like I said, have fun seeing the movie this weekend. But we also touched on last time, because we talked like right before a lot of stuff happened. We talked a little bit about ThunderCat stuff, but we didn't really get to talk about some of the new deliveries with
There we go. The reptilians.
with the reptilians and
Ghost Jaga, because you had gotten the reptilians like an hour before we talked last time. They were still in the box. So you hadn't even had a chance to open them. And as everyone knows, full disclosure, we all know that Veebs, because it's Fwoosh Force Friday with Veebs, is a Scythe man.
yes.
We knew that we're heading into pretty good territory.
Yeah.
Are you happy or unhappy though?
Oh, I'm very, very, very happy with these, because they were able, the when you talk about like the first couple of episodes of ThunderCats, it's like the Monkeyians and the Jackalmans all look pretty much just like Monkeyan and Jackalman, but the Reptilians all have a very, they look different. Slide looks very different from the rest of them, and being able to base them off of his base body, which I still think is one of the best in Ultimates, but have different expressions, the different skin tones, outfits, one of which is full soft goods, which is cool, and new weaponry. This is probably the literal heaviest group of army builders that I have in my collection now. So yeah, that's cool.
I think they turned out amazing. Granted, there's somebody right now who's like, "Of course you do, you made them," but it's like, no, they turned out really, really great. It's a super fun thing that makes a lot of sense, and for the guy that likes that and wants that in his collection, you can have that army of them all of a sudden. Just having those three out there with Scythe is like, oh, he's commanding this group of things, and they all look different and unique, and it's really special. And at the same time, for that person that's like, look, I just need the core characters, you don't have to buy them at all, it's okay.
Yeah.
I feel like they just turned out really, really great. And I think the same thing with Ghost Jaga. It turned out really, really good.
The packaging for Ghost Jaga even was so like reflective, and it's like, this is the Jaga that can go with the majority of your collection, right? Because in his ghost spectral Obi-Wan form at this point. So
where they stole that from, huh?
Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of which, with the reptilians, it's like, I think one of the reasons why I'm such a fan of them and Slide too is because obviously same animation studio, and it just celebrated an anniversary, I think this week, is the Rankin Bass Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. And this is, the reptilians from ThunderCats are definitely cousins to like the orcs and goblins from the Hobbit. And so, I've been happily, where there's a whip, there's a way, every time I look over at these guys too. But it makes me want some our Rankin Bass Middle Earth stuff too, man. I'm telling you.
You never know. Not today, but maybe one day.
Yeah. Well, for being able to get these, since it's been a minute since the last full wave of ThunderCats has come out, being able to get these, and I think Chitara, the Glow Chitara, is right on the way. But the next series of ThunderCats is supposed to be arriving just about any time now, right?
Next series of ThunderCats, I got to look here. It's here. It's in December. The Party Wagon and Wave 7 of ThunderCats all land in December. Party Wagon is literally already landed at the port. Like, people are going to get those very quickly. It is turtle time.
Yeah, it's turtle time, and since this will go up like probably Monday or Tuesday, I don't know, maybe it will just happen that some people will get them like over the weekend or something like that. So
it'll happen. Like, you'll get yours as soon, like the moment we get done recording this, it'll show up just purposely to make you wait a month.
Yeah. Well, and it will be 2024 by that time, and it's just going to be like, come on, that was 2023. Now we're in 2024.
I'm excited for people to get it. I think they're going to be really pumped up. It's a really, really great.
Yeah. Yeah, I've much like I did for ThunderCats. I've got the space for it now. I think, which is on top of that blue thing that's right behind me here. So I think it'll fit there, and we'll have you come back into the present, maybe, and talk a little bit about that when we get to January. But the party wagon wasn't the only like turtle thing that has kind of, since it started, it's going to start shipping right after we talked last time as well. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Ultimate Series 11 was put up for pre-order, and I had a chance to talk with Kyle about it from a design aspect a couple of weeks ago, and that was fun. But I kind of wanted to take some time to talk with you about it as well, simply because this is a very interesting series, I think, for a lot of reasons. And I've been, I don't actively go out and look for people's reactions and opinions to various things on the internet, because that can be a rabbit hole. But
that's never a good thing.
yeah, but I've been seeing a lot of positive response to this one for a lot of different reasons. And it's cool because for me, getting to continue probably my favorite variant group of the Turtles from the vintage line, the Music Turtles with Michelangelo. Yep. He was a great addition, and the fact that you were able to take a foot soldier and essentially turn that into 3 different figures in one package, with battle damage, cartoon, and toy roots to it, is pretty awesome. But I think the majority of the conversations have been around Rat King and the new Ninja Nomad Leonardo. So
Rat King, or with sexy head, as people.
Yeah, I am very glad that Hot Rat King will live, and it's funny because one of the things that I noticed is that I think that a lot of people, now that they have seen the updated Rat King and sexy Rat King is an option, I think that has drawn more fans since it was originally shown, because there's an appreciation for it now that I think that maybe people didn't really understand at first, especially since it's an option now, with these 2 other new heads, that new old heads, kind of, I guess, that is with Rat King now.
Older vintage inspired heads.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. From kind of an oversight thing, what was this process like with taking near immediate feedback when he was revealed back when Series 10 was solicited, and going back to work, and from a design and partner standpoint with getting to this now new final product that I think is pretty much universally beloved at this point, right?
I don't know if anything ever gets universally beloved.
Well, we'll get as close as we can.
We'll get as close as we can. That's also sort of a lot of questions in there or things that I can't really speak.
Sure.
It wasn't just like they went, "Oh yeah, sure." It's like there's a lot of work and convincing and talking about it and layering in feedback and talking to people about what we can and can't do and where we can push and where we can't push and that. So, I think we've landed on something that's pretty great and really feels like it has some updates that make it different from the original Rat King, but it still looks and feels and acts and smells, if you will, like the original Rat King. It's like, oh, it's not the cat belt, but it's a cat bandolier, those kind of things where it's like, oh, okay. And then, oh, we get the flute. I've always wanted the flute. And, it's finding that fine line through all of this and how far we can push from one way to the other.
Well, I told Kyle when he was chatting with me that the cat bandolier is actually something that I really, really like, because when I was a kid, that belt, it was funny, but it was like really restricting. And I don't think I ever posed my Rat King figure or played with it with that belt on. But this is a good way to recall it and kind of just keep it as a almost a more regal accessory to a king, and less restrictives, I suppose, right?
Yeah, it's that fine line right now between being, there's 3 things here. There's what it actually was on one hand.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. I know how my fingers work. One hand. On another hand, over here, it's what do you remember it being?
Yeah.
These two things don't always line up.
Mm-hmm.
What do you remember it being? What was the essence of the character? And then what can we make? And it's finding the intersection of those three things
Mm-hmm.
that really pushes it into where it lands, and it's trying to make it, when you look at it, you're like, oh man, that's just like the one I had when I was a kid. But actually it's not exactly like the one you had when you were a kid. It's been updated, it's been modified, it's been tweaked a little bit, but it still looks, feels, smells, like I said, like it. And you're like, oh, this gives me the same emotion and the same excitement. And that's why I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I feel like I have this especially with like superheroes. I'm big on like iconography, and they're like it doesn't necessarily have to be from a specific artist or an era, but you like look at the superhero in their costume and you think that is like the iconic feel and look for it. I feel like from the figure standpoint here, this is really accomplishing that, even though there are some details, as you said, that are different. And it makes me feel like the accessories are really where things are more updated or just different now than they were.
Yeah. And I mean, it's also that same thing, like what your perspective is on the character that you're bringing to it. Like,
Mhm.
I'll use a different example. Like, you recolor a Batman in Adam West colors or in 1980s light gray with blue, and that really resonates to me. But
Mhm.
if you color it as Arctic jungle deep dive camo, I'm not interested. But there's
Same.
a kid that grew up in the 90s who's like, yeah, Adam West, 1980s, that's whatever. Oh, you recolored something else in Arctic deep dive camo? Oh my God, heart palpitations,
I was going to say that sounds like the Zartan of our friend Pixel Dan, with those '90s colors that he loves. That
Yeah,
version.
but it's that thing. It's like,
Yeah.
what is the emotional history you're bringing to it, and what is your frame of reference? And those things mean different things to different people. So trying to make sure that we're still hitting that emotional reference is really important, while at the same time trying to carve out some spaces that are slightly new.
Yeah. Well, this is probably this is probably an unfair question, but do you feel like then this helped establish some guideposts or paths when considering how to deal with classic characters or designs or things of that nature when it comes to bringing them forward in ultimates, or does it still feel like it's on a case by case basis or both?
I feel like it's a bit more case by case still.
Okay.
Uh, I, I think, there's a lot of different stakeholders that you have to make happy, and how do you get them to be all on the same page, is really where it comes down to.
Yeah. Okay.
So, uh, I wish it could just be as simple as like, oh yeah, here you go. But it's like, well, some characters we may bend further than other characters, or different things. So we'll just have to kind of see how it all plays itself out.
Gotcha. Well, all hail the return of the king, since we were talking Tolkien before. Glad to see Rat King back in his new form, his new old classic modern kind of
Yeah,
form.
yeah.
Accomplishing a lot in one figure, I guess. It's safe.
This is the kid you knew in high school, all grown up, right?
Exactly. There you go. There you
He's an
go.
adult now.
Yeah. Well, navigating Rat King was one thing, but kind of diagonally catty corner from him is an all new take on a classic character. In doesn't get more classic than Leonardo, I suppose, but this is Ninja Nomad Leonardo, which is something that is brand new, bringing brand newness to a mythos that is large and old and complicated at this point. Tell me about this from a, because like I said, we touched on the design a little bit, but from a, bringing something new and how you arrive there wanting to kind of have some specific contribution and uniqueness, because I think this is a really cool figure in kind of the progression of the journey of like his character as kind of told through the Sewer Samurai and then up to this point version, right?
Yeah, and you know, I say as because I'm waiting for my words to come to me, and you don't know. So that's me being whatever. Yeah, it was. How do we find what would it be? What would this one was a little bit of like, what would it be the next wave of vintage turtles that you didn't get?
Mm-hmm.
You know, you went and you had the sports turtles and you had the music turtles and you had this. It's like, what was the next wave of turtles that didn't come out? Sort of kind of going off where April had gone a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what would that next wave of turtles look like? And we were being asked a little bit to like find the same thing, find a little bit of space. Like, where is something that can look and feel like a vintage but be modern, and some of those things. I thought there was a really good intersection on this figure with bringing in some newness, making it still feel like a classic turtle, but then like having the trash can lid hat is like, oh, that feels like a vintage turtle to me.
Mm-hmm.
Those kind of pun accessories, if you will. you know um it, it was one of those things where at one point we were hamming it up more, and then we sort of came back and was like, but he kind of needs to have his swords and he needs to have this, and then it's like, oh well, then there's a little less ham to be had, if you will. So it's also trying to figure out that line between how many trash can pizza jokes can you put in it, and also have it also still be cool.
Well, for a crop of characters that are mutant turtles and have been everything from, as you said, sports stars to party goers to farmers, this feels almost like a more logical next variation set of turtles that we never got. And like I was saying before, the Sewer Samurai Leonardo, he's in full samurai regalia, lots of golds and things on there, and now this is almost post that, and it tells kind of a sadder story, which is cool. I mean,
Really,
kind of a continuation, as you said.
You made my brain go back to where we landed, and how we landed on this specifically was we were like, the name is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Everybody calls them Turtles or TMNT, but it's like ninja.
Yeah.
Let's start at the actual core. Let's start at ninja and work our way out. And that's how we got here, which was like, let's go back to the very beginning and go, all right, they're not music and basketball and everything. It's like, what's ninja? What's our take on ninja? Not what's our take on turtle or what's our take on teenage. It's what's our take on, or even mutant. It's like there's radioactive black belt hamsters and all this other stuff where they tried to put it all into one mix, and they try to, what's the crazy concoction? It was like, oh no, let's come back to this. Let's just focus on the word ninja. Yeah. And we use that as our base. And starting out, like, what would the four turtles look like if they had sort of like, you took sort of ninja things and moved them one space out? Mm-hmm. Okay, what does that look like? And that's where this came from, and some of the other ideas that we've had.
So I was going to ask about that from a planning perspective then, or you're like thinking about the other ones as well as how they fit into kind of this feel, and not necessarily it's like, okay, well, this is where Leonardo would be, maybe Raphael would be something completely different, but all kind of in that classic ninja.
Yeah, it was like, here's a grouping that could have come out that was a whole, like, here's the ninja group.
Yeah.
One's the Wayward Wanderer. I mean, it's not, I think you can look at this and see definitely a little lone wolf and cub kind of point of view around it and everything. It's like, oh, okay, I get it. It's that wandering samurai. It is that, with the hat and everything, you can see a lot of different parables and historical references and where that one's going, and each one would have their own moment, where they would have something unique about them in that regard.
Yeah.
That said, the next wave is 2003, so you're gonna have to wait a while.
Well, I mean, but that says a lot right there, because to your point, we're now dealing with a line that brings us kind of modern updates, going back and bringing some of those classic variations forward, doing pulling from the cartoon and maybe some sensible variations with something like the Foot Soldier, all new stuff like these, getting into 2003. I mean, this line is suddenly bringing it from a lot of directions.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully it still feels cohesive, and when they sit on your shelf, they feel like they family together. I think that they do.
Yeah.
I think, I think anybody that's watched a couple of these videos at this point, some of the literalism that we had in some of the earlier waves is not quite available to us at this point. So how do we still make this look, feel, and smell, like I said, the same as it was by making it slightly different?
Oh, well, I don't know. I feel like this is exciting. I'm a big fan of the alternate head, with a,
If you think about that alternate head on there with the soft goods sort of shawl cloak thing, and you're starting to think of that classic wandering sort of samurai or lone wolf and cub thing, you're like, oh, got it. Ninja Nomad, that makes complete sense. And then the turtle's spin on it, of course, is the trash can.
Yeah. Well, I'm just you've put an alternate head out here now, that I'm hoping that we'll see with other turtles as well, because I got to have at least 3 of them, because it recalls a certain group of 3 people from a certain very 80s movie that I'm also a very big fan of. It's like, oh, I could see that. I mean, the turtles crossed up with Star Trek, for God's sake. Why couldn't they cross up with Jack Burton? So
Yeah. Big Trouble in Little Turtle.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, okay. So this set is currently up for pre-order, as you said. Next wave, though, which would be 12, is going to feature 2003, which is something that has not been brought kind of forward into modern figures at this point, because 2003 was 20 years ago.
Hard to believe, huh?
I know.
You're like, wait, after 2000 was just last week.
Yeah, exactly. That was just like 5 years ago. So we'll see 2003 in the next wave, and then is the plan to kind of alternate, or we'll see.
We'll just kind of have to see, but they're coming.
Cool. All right. Well, I'm definitely looking forward to that wave. Now, yeah, just yesterday, as of the recording to this, to kind of stick with the classic properties, but to switch it up a little bit, you talked with P. Danny,
Professional Danny,
to talk about the next the next phase of your GI Joe partnership, which is going O-ring, which is it's been a journey, right?
I mean, obviously, I think notwithstanding, for a lot of people, that was the very first thing we ever asked about. It was like, what about GI Joe and O-ring? And they're like, you just walked in here and asked us for our most prized possession and baby. No. Yeah. And then whatever. So obviously it's been years, and literally it was just a hard no for a really long time. And this came together relatively quickly. And of course, we have acres of plans for it because we've been asking about it forever.
Sure.
But it came together very quickly, and the team, we all got on board with it with Hasbro. They were finally like, okay, you guys can do some of this. And to say we're excited would be an understatement. I think there's so much opportunity in here, not opportunity as business, but just like there's so many things that just haven't been made that we all want.
Yeah.
Like, let's just get going. Let's get started.
Yeah.
It's going to be awesome. So, in some cases, we're having a conversation about the glory days of the fact that more Turtles merch is being made than ever before in every stripe and every variety and showing everything and finding that unique part to live within the Turtles universe, is work.
Yeah.
It's great and it's awesome. But that's because there's been so much uplift in Turtles. And then on the flip side, when you go over to G.I. Joe, it's like Classified is killing it and doing great. We've been doing a wonderful job in Reaction, if I do say so myself. There's a lot of people that don't like Reaction. They don't understand why anybody would buy this crap. But it's because it's not for them. And that's fine. It's like, it's because there's not enough stuff being made for G.I. Joe to satiate their demand to where they can understand that something being made might not be for them. So getting that opportunity to start making more Joe, because there's more fans out there that want something different than what's being offered to them, is a huge opportunity. And it isn't one of those where I have to go find that deep, dark corner or that unique spin that hasn't been done, where instead you can come back and go, there's very obvious things that you need, and I can bring those to you. And I think, that's for that group, like it's so funny to me because, you'll see the comments and be like, yeah, well, that's why no one buys Reaction. It's like, we're on, the third year of Reaction. It's still sitting on peg. And they're like, well, it's always on clearance. It's like, Target wouldn't keep buying it if it wasn't selling. Yeah. There's a customer for it. I realize it is not you. And the reason it makes you mad is because it's not the thing you want. And you're wasting my time because I want to buy G.I. Joe and you're not giving me the G.I. Joe I want to buy. And this is all garbage. And it's like, all right, well, now I'm going to give you the thing that you've been looking for. It's like, and then it's like, if you're getting that, if you're that O-ring guy and you're getting O-ring G.I. Joes, then you're like, yeah, I guess if you like that Reaction stuff, great. Because you're happy.
Yeah.
You're upset that you can't get what you want and somebody else is making something else, then it's all lame. And it's like, oh my God, you guys. But I'm on a tangent, but coming backwards, it's just like, yes, like we know that people want this, and I want to be able to bring you what you want. Yeah. So to finally be able to do that with G.I. Joe, I say finally on my side, because they've done some on their side, and come to market with more items more often, and really start giving that O-ring collector something new to look forward to is super exciting.
Yeah. Well, and for a lot of the different licenses and properties that you have several different, form factors or whatever you want to call them. It's like Transformers, you have Reaction, Ultimates, and then you do the Super Shogun type thing. Ninja Turtles has a lot of things. So this really adds another, as you were saying, another piece in addition to the Reaction and the Ultimates and now O-ring. But that said, Ultimates are a different scale, kind of their own thing. How, from a planning perspective, are you going to keep O-ring and Reaction in terms of like character choices and things like that completely separate from each other, or are they going to become complementary and work hand in hand if you want them to?
I think they're sort of different. Obviously, we're a couple years in on Reaction, so there's definitely some characters and things that we're going to do over there that haven't been made for that collector, but we're not going to go back and just replay the same characters we made Reaction in O-ring. We've got a whole new sort of line plan for, okay, where can we go with O-ring that fan base, that customer, if you will, has never had, but also builds upon and extends from where we've been with Reaction. So, there's some stuff that we've done, like I'll use some example though. It's like that O-ring customer does not need me to make Destro again.
Yeah,
they've got Destro. I don't need Destro again. Don't make him for me. I don't need a Black Snake Eyes. I've already got a Black Snake Eyes. Show me something that I don't have, and that's really where we're focusing on, is that
G.I. Joe the movie chuckles right there. I mean, right there, never been done. There you go.
There's some very. I think I'll put it this way: we've got 2 years worth of releases scripted out already. Um, and it was very easy to fill 2 years worth of slots. It was more actually like trimming.
Yeah.
There's so much good stuff out there. And there is so many cool characters. There's so many other things. Obviously, I can't say, yes, we're looking at that, or no, we're not looking at that. But, it's going to come out September, October of 2024, right around the same time the mothership will be landing. And, I'm sure that, we're just sorting it all out right now. I'm sure that if it's landing in September or October, it's going to get leaked, or, or somebody's going to find out the line list through Target or back in stock warehouse, or it's going to be
amazing.
it's going to be pre-booked at Entertainment Earth or Big Bad Toy Store or something. Like, I'm sure we'll be talking about it in detail before then. But there are some really, really cool figures in there, and there's some obvious stuff, no different than you can go, I need this, and this. There's a bunch of that stuff where it's like, here it is. Like, it's not that hard to figure out what are the big ones that haven't been done.
Yeah. Well, that's exciting, and like you said, for something like Turtles that has been, in the last 10 years, or maybe even a little less than that, there's just been so much of it. It's good to see, something like Joe's really come into the same space and have a variety of different, scales, just executions in terms of, cartoon or otherwise or whatnot. So, but O-ring is it's the thing. It's the Joe. It's the Joe thing.
It's the Joe format, and I'll take this way back to when we were doing Masters, and people would get all up in arms that we were. I remember being at PowerCon, and when it wasn't before Anaheim, where it was
in Torrance.
In Torrance. There we go. In Torrance. And, having a panel, and, there's all these people, and talking to them, and they were like, I don't understand why you're making Japanese vinyl. I don't understand, making reaction. These suck. And I want this. And it was like, you don't understand. Like, everybody is coming from a different perspective. Once they realize that, and I think at that point we're announcing that we were going to make some of the 5-inch figure line extensions and stuff like that. It's like, once there was enough to go around, people no longer felt like they were not being listened to, for lack of a better description. Then all of a sudden it was like, oh yeah, it's not for me, but I'm happy for that guy to get it because I'm getting mine. And I feel like that's really the space that we're entering with G.I. Joe, is starting that whole conversation over again, which is, once everybody's getting what they're looking for and feel like they're being heard,
they be more inclusive.
Then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah. I don't really like reaction, but I understand why my friend Bill loves it, or and it is very much that. I think that once that happens, you're going to get a lot less. The negativity always is that person feeling like no one's paying attention to them or valuing them. And it's not that we don't value you. It's just, I couldn't make that before. So now I'm going to make it.
Well, 2024, Reaction, Ultimates, Mothership, O-Ring. It's going to be a big Joe year next
year.
There's
a lot of Joe out there for everybody. Come on. And we're all going to be at Joe Fest down in Augusta, Georgia. So you should come to Joe Fest and hang out with us.
That's awesome. Going down there. Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing, how that continues to move along, and how, Ultimates also continues to move along, just like everything else next year. But before we kind of talk about next year, there's still a couple of weeks left in 2023, and I'm going to bet, having had these conversations and knowing you for a bit now, that there's probably going to be still at least a couple more surprises between now and the end of the year, right?
I don't think there's any big surprises. I think we've kind of pulled back on the December surprises, because generally people are like, yo, it's December. Okay.
Yeah.
There's one more figure there is another pre-order that hasn't been talked about in December. It's a single figure. You will get your party wagon.
Yeah.
So there is an ultimate coming. Dun 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 dun. Yeah, I don't think there's a whole lot of really crazy, unexpected stuff coming out that you're not aware of at this point. I think most people have already seen, because I've seen it all over Instagram, the new Target exclusive Baroness in the blue outfit from DEC.
Yeah.
Yep. And I think we've announced that I know we've announced it's coming. Maybe we haven't shown everybody yet, but for reaction, Willy Wonka.
Yes. I think we've seen the renders of the first. I know I've seen Violet, so I think they're out there.
Okay, yeah. So Willy Wonka is going to come out. Yeah. Baroness has come out.
Sesame Street shipping.
Sesame Street is shipping.
I got the notification about that. Yeah.
So and there's one more ultimate still to be revealed. But that's kind of that's it's like, we're going to take it easy on you going into the holidays.
Okay. Well, that's fair, and it makes sense. So let me ask you, then 2023 in a word or a phrase for you, thinking back on it, having to think about it right now. How would you describe it?
2023 was, I don't know,
the year of or something. I don't know.
I think 2023 was a very interesting year in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. We've run into it, and I think we've talked about this before, because so many things about our company are in our control, but so many things in our company are out of our control. Mm-hmm. For example, we have a very high sell-through rate at most of our retailers. Yeah, you may see some stuff go on clearance, but for the most part, that may be local to your particular retailer, but not others. Like, another one down the street won't have it on, kind of whatever. But we have a very high rate. But because retailers were so full of other people's product that they bought big on, that even though my product sells through, we're not buying any new product right now because we're full of old product. I'm like, well, that's not my problem. That's their problem. Doesn't matter if I've got a warehouse full of it. So, there was a lot of stuff like that made 2023, harder than it normally is to a degree. But at the same time, like, the product we got to make and the product we got to put out this year has been amazing. I mean, look at Cat Slayer. Yeah. How bonkers is that thing? It's ridiculous. Wow. And obviously Mothership's still going on, but Mothership is a big deal. Like, we finally got O-Ring over the line here in just the last month. Yeah. That's a really big deal. The Mechagodzilla Super Shogun came in, it's already gone. It's already sold out. Yeah. We've already had to do reorders on the Cyborg for Krang. It hasn't even landed yet, and it's already gone. Yeah. And it's like, well, there's more coming, so it's fine. But I think you're seeing, at least for me, it's like, we know when we get the product out there and we put it in front of people really do like what we make, despite what the internet says. That's a joke I make often at this point. It's but despite what the internet thinks, things are going all right. It was just, it was just a tricky year because you go into 23 from 22, you're building a year in advance. And in the middle of 22, when we're building the middle of 23 and I'm planning 23 and 24, and you think what's going to happen based on what your business is doing is radically different than what happened in 2023. So there was a lot of reset that had to happen and a lot of, but once things get out, like, and when we put stuff in front of people, generally speaking, we're doing a very good job, and we like making the stuff we make. I mean, same thing. Like, that's why the Beastie Boys 3-pack just came back in, because the first ones were just gone instantly, you know, and it's like, oh, okay, well, the demand is more than we thought. Those are great problems to have.
Yeah.
And we want to address it. We don't want you to have to pay $200 in the secondary market to get it on card. So, but I also want to protect the people that bought them originally. So how do I repackage this and remake it new, but enough where it's different, where the two can live side by side? And if you got one over the other, it's okay. You know, those are the things that we're trying to do. And there's a lot of really cool, fun stuff that we're making and doing. And I'm really excited about everything that's coming up. When I look back at 23, it's just like most everybody, it's like, look, 23 was harder than it needed to be, but it's fine. It's fine. Yeah. And 24 is looking really great. And there's some really cool things coming up that people, like I said, like you've been asking for an O, if you're that G.I. Joe person, you've been asking for an O-ring line for, you know, consistent, always coming out O-ring line for 20 years, you know, 15 years, for something to keep coming out. Not here's a few, then it goes away, then here's a few. It's like, we've got a consistent O-ring line coming for you. That should be exciting, not grumpy.
Yeah.
Well, they're finally giving me what I want, but it's going to be terrible. And it's like, okay, well then you're not going to be happy no matter what.
Yeah.
But you know, I think for, you know, we can talk about this. Most everybody would look back and go, 23 was, you know, busy. It was a trickier year than 22 or 21. You know.
Oh, well,
was 21 when the pandemic started? Was it 20? I can't even remember.
And the 2023 is the first year that felt like it was a year and not 3 years, but just 1 year all pressed into one or something like that. So
yeah, like
I can't
remember, but it's the same thing. Like that first year of the pandemic, you're like, what the fuck's gonna happen?
Yeah.
And then year 2 of the pandemic, you're like, this is the new normal. Everything's great.
Yeah.
You know, it's fine. Working from home, this is kind of awesome. You know, and you know, I think the last 4 or 5 years have been really crazy and all the changes that have happened. But at the same time, like, we're making so much cool stuff. I mean, and we're getting fun stuff out. The Halloween Kids came out.
Yeah.
That's great. You know, getting Sesame Street. Oh man, years and years I chased Sesame Street. We finally got it. That Count and that Super Grover and Super Size look bananas.
Yeah.
Like, we're having the time of our lives. So I'm just ready to run into 24. It's like, cool, 3, we got you taken care of. And now let's run to 24 and knock it out the park.
I was going to ask you what your, I don't know, not outlook, but just what's 2024 going to, you know, looking at it from your perspective, is it going to be, how's it going to feel or be different from 23 or unique in of itself? Or is can you even answer that question at this point?
I think when we talk about 2024, obviously for me, for our team, we're already done.
Yeah.
You know, 2024, we're working on 25 right now.
Yeah.
So stuff that's coming out a year from now, we finished, you know, last month. So there's some really cool things that will happen in Q3 and Q4 in terms of like some new and unexpected things. The first half of the year is sort of based on, you know, a year plus ago. So, you know, it's a little bit more of like, all right, we know what's going to happen. Same old, not same old, but you know, we know that in, I believe it is February, that that 2003 Turtles are coming.
Yeah.
How they received, I don't know. We're going to find out in February. But like that part, it's like, it's almost, I hate to say old news because it's not old news. It has to still happen. But in terms of where we are, I'm in January of 25 and through the end of 25 looking at like all these really great projects and cool things and unexpected moments that we can really get into. And that's not to say we're going to abandon anything we're already doing. So we're going to keep moving with this stuff that we love and then get to layer on a couple new things next year, which I think are, you know, same thing. I think it's going to be things that people haven't seen before.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be some people that love it. There's going to be some people that don't understand it, and that's quite okay. But using a thing, like I said, it's like cyborgs are a platform.
Right.
It's like either you like that thing or you don't. And there's some more stuff like that where it's like, here's a whole new take on how to build a toy.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if you meant licenses, platforms, both. Just
licenses, not so much. I mean, there's a few for next year, but mostly it's what are the platforms, what are the ways it's coming out, what are the things we can do to it, and mostly just making sure that it feels like fun.
Yeah,
like, this stuff is supposed to be fun. When it's like, hey, we're announcing O-Ring and you want to be grumpy, like, man, like you should be like, we're making more toys. There's going to be more opportunities. This should be awesome.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm hammering too much on it.
No.
Most 90% of the feedback is, oh, fuck yeah, let's see what you're doing for O-Ring. And which is great. It's always funny where I'm just like, there's a group of people we're never going to make happy, and that's fine. And
they're in every fandom too. So
yeah, and whether it's the worst and the weirdest, or it's making more Shoguns or other things like there's just so much fun here and so much excitement around making great toys that hopefully everybody else can see it too and comes along for the ride. Because I do think we're going to have some stuff next year where people are going to be like, whoa,
yeah,
I can't tell if I love that or if I'm ambivalent. But it's the same thing. There's a platform that we've got coming out next year that when I said this is what I wanted to do and I showed people, almost my whole staff was like, what? 6 months into it, my whole staff is like, no, this is going to be the biggest thing we have next year. Cool. And they're like, I want every one of these. I need every one of these. This is bonkers.
Yeah.
But it's like, it was so left field that they didn't know how to wrap their head around it at first.
Yeah.
It's that same thing. We used to make a joke at the store about our Japanese vinyl, which is super expensive. As you know, making vinyl in Japan is expensive.
Yeah.
People would walk in and be like, oh, I love this. How much is it? It would be $50. They'd be like, $50? They put it back.
Yeah.
They come back a second time and go, I love that, but it's $50. Third time they came in, they're like, I don't care. Give it to me.
Yeah.
It's not a dollar equivalent, but it was the same thing of like, I don't know how to process this because I haven't seen this before. So I have to kind of see it, be confused by it, and then go back and kind of think about it. Then I saw it a second time, and I'm like, all right, this is actually pretty cool, but I'm still. And then once I got sort of, it's like getting into a hot tub, like a few feet at a time. Once they got in, they were like, oh man, these are amazing. I need all of it.
Yeah.
I love it. This thing's so awesome. But it was definitely one of those things where they're like, they had to ease themselves into it. But once they ease themselves into it, quite honestly, they're more excited about it now than I am. I'm like, okay, you really? All right.
All right. Well, big time Super 7 hot tub party 2024.
That's what we're going to call it. The big time Super 7 hot tub party. It's a t-shirt graphic.
Oh man. I'll only print it on Speedos.
Oh man. This is a party I'm not sure I want to attend.
Well, it's exciting, and I'm looking forward to finding out what that is and going through the mental processing that you just described, because I think I've had that with some things in the past. It's like yeah, so it'll be interesting.
Well, it's one thing where it's the same thing. Like if it's something you've seen before, just translated, you're like, oh, I get it. Yeah. I know the reference. I know where that's going. Like that makes sense. When it's something where you're like, I have no frame of reference to any of this. Mm-hmm. You're like, hold on now. I gotta digest this. It's like, the first time eating like Chinese food or something where you're like, do I like this? Do I not like this?
This is different. I think I love it, but I'm not sure.
I think I like it. Holy shit, I love it. And, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, looking forward to that, and looking forward to talking about it too. So 2024, you said that's
always so tricky because I have to be so oblique about some of this stuff.
but I mean, but you said it's like second half, like final third of the year for those types.
It'll start at San Diego.
Okay.
First item dropped San Diego Comic-Con.
All right. I already got my credentialing stuff for that like 2 weeks ago. So
there we go.
It's gonna be here before we know it.
I got my bill.
Oh man. Oh,
that came in the mail today. Here's your bill for San Diego Comic-Con. Please write it out to firstborn child.
I was gonna say I don't want that from San Diego Comic-Con. Oh man. Okay. Well, all right. It's December. We're not going to get a chance to talk again until January. So I thought I would just kind of ask you from a personal standpoint a couple of questions of what's the favorite toy, action figure, or whatever that you added to your personal collection this year. That's a hard one, I'm sure. But...
Okay, if we're talking about, well, we have to quantify whether it is vintage or modern.
How about if you want to go with one of each, you can absolutely do that.
With the vintage figures, I got a Nomura Ogon Bat push button tin. I don't really collect tin. I'm a diehard vinyl collector. But the Nomura large scale tins are the big bodies with the small heads. That Ogon Bat has haunted me in my brain for 30 years, and through a very circuitous route, I was offered one and moved a few things, did a few things, made some magic so that the Nomura tin could show up. Because that's something where it's unexpected. Like I didn't ever think that I would own one or it would come into play because it's not even what I mostly collect. So in the vintage side, that's very much like where it's like, oh, because it was so unexpected, it's still very memorable where it's like, oh, I've got this, and this. I need this variation or this spray op or whatever on this thing. Like it's cool that I got it, but it's also sort of like expected.
Yeah.
As far as modern for the year, I think my number one is probably the Super Shogun Mecha Godzilla.
Yeah. That's a cool thing, man.
That along with Trash Squatch.
Yeah.
From the weirdest. That's one of Josh's designs. Trash Squatch is just the best.
Yeah. It's
He's
like
the best.
It's like Oscar meets actual trash can meets Chewbacca meets weird. So yeah.
It's just bananas. So those are my two favorite for this year.
Okay. Well, how about record? What's your favorite record that you added this year?
Once again, is it new or old?
Oh, it's like, hey, we're making the rules as we go along here. So
we're making the rules as we go along. What I was about to say, make up the rules as we go along. I was like, what's that lyric to? Let's see. On the vintage side, I got some heavy records this year.
Yeah.
Trying to think though, like the thing that probably that I was not expecting or showed up where I was just shocked at getting it. I don't. I'm not coming up with the best answer off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Probably the memorable side would be my friend Kim Kinnikin in Canada. He was in a band called Spark Marker, which most people have not heard of. They had a couple things going against them, mostly that they were from Canada. They were in the early 90s, post-hardcore band. They're fucking amazing.
Yeah.
They were from Canada, and then they took basically an entire album's worth of material and put it out on 4 different 7-inches, 4 different labels in 4 different places.
Oh man!
So no one ever heard any of it. It's been compiled onto a CD, or if you look into other places called Products and Accessories. But if you like Quicksand, you are like, and everybody was like, "Oh, Shift is the next Quicksand." Shift was not the next Quicksand, but Shift, their spacesuit album is amazing. Notwithstanding, Spark Marker is like, I liked Quicksand. Like Spark Marker will become your favorite band overnight.
Really?
The Products and Accessories compilation of those 7 inches, because it was all recorded at one time at Don Fury's. It's an album's worth of material, and it's amazing. But coming back to the memory is that Kim has a very slow but terminal condition. And so Kim was getting rid of his records. And so I bought a few records from Kim, and it took him a while to get them to me, not in a negative way. It took him a while to get to me, but like, whatever, okay. But the reason it took a while is because he didn't tell you this at first, but when you opened out the records, he wrote a note inside every single record about the memories and past that we had together.
Oh, wow.
As well as other people, because he had gone to some of his friends and said, "Hey, are there any of these, I'm getting rid of this stuff, paring it down, doing it myself. Is there anything you want?" And he'd be like, "Oh, here's a few records that I want." And so opening it up, like I got the record, said thank you, but I didn't have time to open them up or listen to them for several weeks. And then I finally opened up the first one and then pull out, and it's just a note talking about, hey, and across these 5 records I bought from him, here's when we met. Here's what we did. Here's because he stayed in my dorm room when they were on tour, and then I went to go see him there, and they came here, and it was just our history together written on 5 different pieces of paper through 5 different records. And I was like, that was. So when we talk about music, it was like, it's not a particular record. It's that experience of getting that record and getting those stories from Kim was pretty epic.
That's cool. That's cool. I
took it heavy there.
No. That's amazing. I mean, it's one of a kind. It's nobody else is getting that. So that's awesome. I went pretty heavy during the pandemic and picking up a lot of records and stuff and filling holes in my collection and whatnot. So I didn't go too heavy this year simply because I feel like I've got a bunch of stuff that hasn't gotten the play that it deserves yet since I gotten it. But man, my mom hasn't had a record player in probably 25 years. So I went over and I rated her stuff, and I ended up getting a bunch of original pressings of stuff that isn't necessarily too hard to find, but just stuff that I'd never thought that I would have in my collection. I did that last week, so it's kind of been a trip getting through some of that stuff, and that's why I asked you about the records, because when you add 50 or so to your collection in one swoop, it's like, oh, this is going to take a while to listen through all of these. But I know that you're big on that as well. So I was kind of interested to see what was the most meaningful for you for this year.
Yeah, that was that. And then, there's definitely just going back to a lot of stuff that, lately it's a lot of this 77 to sort of 81 post UK punk explosion, pre-US hardcore explosion area of just transition in punk, where everyone's trying to sort of figure out where they're going, and there's a lot of experimentation in it that you don't necessarily appreciate when you're 19 or 25 or even 30, that then you go back later and you're like, oh wow, Wire is really interesting and good, where I just didn't have the ears that could understand what they were doing as well, or it didn't have enough power in it that got my adrenaline running when I was younger. So there's some stuff like that where there's definitely some bands where I'm like, oh, okay, I'm rediscovering some of this stuff that's, I hate to call it tamer, but just different, And in some cases it's only a song. The rest of it's not that interesting still to me, but there's that song where it's like Replacements. I never really liked the Replacements. I still don't. But that first record, Stink, I'm trying to remember the name of the one song on Stink that's just a brutal monster. And I'm like, this, okay. I have found, at this point, you're literally finding songs, not even albums. You're just like, here's an insane song. I think I posted a thing on Instagram a month ago about Ivy Green. Did you see that? Do wap show up. I think we're gonna make it. Like 77 from
like Denmark or something. Netherlands, yeah.
And you're like, what? But you're like, it's phenomenal. Yeah. Terrible, low production quality, can't play or sing, amazing, catchy hook. Like, you're like, this is great. But, 25 or 30-year-old me wouldn't have been able to like get into it the same way because it just doesn't have enough aggression to it.
It's that stuff that you can start to like listen to and understand when you've gone from, because I've experienced this at several shows as of late, from being right in the thick of it to being, hopefully at least the still semi-cool dude standing at the back a little bit now,
I'm trying to I'm literally looking up that replacement song right now. Like, there's other people here that are going to be very much like that, love like that alternative rock replacements thing. And
the thing, yeah.
Where it's like I understand that, that they were great for that. But for me, it's the same thing. It's called Kids Don't Follow.
Okay.
And it's like, wow. Yeah. But then even the next song is called Fuck School or Stuck in the Middle or Goddamn Job. They're only a minute something long, but still not the same thing. But like, whoa, Kids Don't Follow is like, wait a minute. I'm excited now.
Hey, that's why you can't put limits on anything, because as you said, there's usually one song or something or sometimes it's even just a lyric or a chord sequence or something that it's like it hits you big unexpectedly, and that's cool. That's and like you said, you've kind of got to be in a certain place to be able to think that way, process it, and accept it almost. Even
exactly. So.
Okay. Well, cool.
All right. There's our year-end list of old weird shit that no one else cares about.
I was gonna say, no, that's good. All right. Well, as always, you've been extremely generous with your time. Seeing how this is the last time that we will talk this year. And we won't be meeting back until, holy shit, 2024. Any last kind of end of year things that you'd like to say or that we haven't talked about?
No, I mean it will be. I've said this a bunch here lately, but just as always, thank you to everyone that does buy what we make and allows us to keep making what we're doing. I appreciate it completely, because I know that we all started as just toy collector fans, and the fact that Super7 is in this position to this day, partly because of this, but we got lucky in a lot of ways. And we continue to be able to do that because people buy the products that we make. And without them, I don't get to do this. So it's always the same thing of like, thank you to everybody that buys what we make. I really appreciate it. I'm hoping that we're delivering toys that you love and you're not just doing it out of grumpy necessity. But we're trying our best to make really great stuff, and we're getting to live the dream, and that only happens with people that support us. So thank you very much to everybody.
Well, like I said, it's been an interesting year with some cool stuff. Next year looks to be exciting. So I'm looking forward to seeing what's new, getting what's new, and talking about what's new. So
there's gonna be a lot of new.
Yeah, a lot of new. So on that point, happy Godzilla watching weekend. Happy holidays to you and your family. I hope you have a good New Year as well, because we'll talk on the other side of it. But
actually, we'll do the first Fwoosh first Friday with Veebs in February.
And 24.
Exactly. 4.
All right. Well, everybody, thanks for joining us as always. And we will, get through the next few weeks and on to 2024, and we will see you then.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Yes, enjoy.
Have a great time.
Thanks, guys.